Today is Thursday, March the 14th, 2024, and welcome to episode 87 of Rural Reliance with the Canny Couple. I'm Julia.
I'm Aaron.
We're a small homestead family in rural Southwest Virginia that work every single day on reducing our outside dependencies while merging homesteading and frugality.
Yes, and today we're going to talk about something that's we've had failures with.
We've learned from our experiences.
Learn from our failures.
Yes. Learn from our bad judgment.
Yes.
We are talking about some of our best tips to save money on the homestead.
And this comes about because we had to learn.
We did. We learned the hard way. Mm-hmm. We really did. So we didn't naturally fall into this homesteading, frugal. We didn't combine these naturally. We were always super frugal in every other aspect of our life. But we were trying to build our homestead so fast.
We wanted to be to, let's say, out of day 100. You know, if you were measuring in 100 days, we were trying to be at day 95.
Yeah.
Like, to start with.
Yeah. And that wasn't possible.
Yeah.
So we were like, we'll buy all these trees, and in 10 years, they'll be producing and taking care of us. And we didn't really think this through.
Nope.
At all. And we bought hundreds. And I'm even scared to see how many trees. Like, I would say we're probably closer to the 1,000 range. And it doesn't seem like that's possible. But when you're ordering 50 trees at a time, if not more, it really adds up very quickly. You do not realize. So we made some massive mistakes on our homestead. Mistakes we have corrected, and we still make mistakes now. Mm-hmm. We're not saying we don't, but we are being very intent, very focused, and what's the word I'm thinking of? Intentional. Very intentional when it comes to our homesteading on a budget and really cutting costs. And so, anything else you want to add before we jump into it?
No, just I'm not ordering 100 trees at a time anymore.
No, we order a few plants here, and we also have a very strict rule. If we don't know it grows, we don't buy it. This kills him.
It hurts me.
It does. It hurts his soul. But we've had a lot of failures and a lot of money spent on things we don't know if it's going to grow or produce.
But I want it to work.
But he wants it to work. So we've really been focusing on just getting the things that we absolutely 100% know work for our area, especially in terms of berry vines and things like that. So number one is budget and stick to it. This is so important.
As we were saying that earlier, we budgeted for everything else.
We budgeted the homestead. The homestead was in there.
But we never hit the budget.
We never hit the budget. We went over time. Because
we were trying to get to that day 95 as quick as possible.
And if we had a project, oh, buddy.
Then we would triple, quadruple at minimum our budget for homesteading.
Yep.
So.
And we had a very, very hefty homestead budget. So. Now our homestead budget, we have the homestead budget really split into two categories. We have homesteading. This is where we justify all of our plant buys, all of our fertilizer, anything like that. Like right now, I know I'm going to need a little bit of soil. If we don't have enough, we've got to go do a check and see how much soil we have to repot all of the plants that have made it so far. I already know that. Aaron's aware, so we'll add that into the budget. We also have to get some more buckets.
Yep.
That's part of it. But I do have money set aside. If I need to dig into that for some of those, that's part of our homestead project fund, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But we do have it set aside for these bigger projects. But before, we wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, and I don't remember what our homestead budget used to be. Like
I remember at one point it was like $500. Now we're set at like
we're $200. I didn't
Animals.
realize it was that high when you said
Oh
that.
yes, you remember now. Like we had $200, or we have animals in another category, and we know we'll have to adjust it, and that's going to fluctuate.
Mm-hmm.
But our goal is to always be ahead on feed for any animals that come onto the property.
Right, right.
So we do split that up into two. We are also hoping to supplement with food that we grow ourselves. We put in the fridge, the freezers, all of that stuff throughout the year, whatever we can do to kind of help supplement bugs. I'm really thinking of trying the traps for the beetles, the Japanese beetles, and also the stink bugs help. I know you're anti, but they eat up everything.
Yeah, but the Japanese beetle one. Tell us what you've if you've had experience with it or used it. I've read a lot of stuff that it says it attracts even more to your area than it actually helps. Have you tried one of those?
Well, I'm thinking of putting it on a different side of the property, down the hill, away from our grapes. They destroy my grapevines, destroy them. So my goal is to try to supplement our feed because we're focusing mostly on poultry. That's
right. It's what we eat the most of.
It does not make sense for us to go with something else. That's the other part of this. This is something that we thought about. We were like, oh, we're going to do goats. Oh, we want to do this. We've talked about pigs. Cause we even did a pros and cons list. We were even talking about sheep a year ago.
We talked about yaks. We talked.
That was him. That was not me. That was not.
It was on the list.
It was on the list, but not by my choice. I was more like, if I was gonna have a cow, like the miniature
She wanted
Jersey.
the Jersey miniature.
The miniature Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
if that was what we were gonna go with.
Yep.
But we really made a list, and we said, how do we want to live our life? And this doesn't make sense for us.
Right.
How much of this do we eat?
Yeah.
Not enough to justify.
I wanted the yak for the fur and to ride them.
He's insane. So, budget and stick to it. You need to set it up in your budget however you need to. If you have to itemize your homestead budget, you need to itemize it. Whatever you need to do to have it set aside, because it will get away from you.
Mm-hmm.
It really will. It will get away from you so quickly, and you won't even realize it, especially if you're doing projects and all these things. If we have seeds starting, you got plants you have to buy, because like I know right now I've got to buy celery. That's the one plant. Well, I've got to buy a few broccoli plants too here. But that won't be very much.
Just to see what we're buying them for is to see
if my seed starts working or not.
Right, exactly.
My seed start broccoli looks beautiful.
It did last year.
It did last year too, but it didn't do anything.
Right.
So we're going to try buying a couple of plants, see which ones work better, if it's something that I can see start, or if it's just easier for me to buy it. The next one goes along with the budget. Don't justify going over budget. So we were like, oh, well, we went over budget here. We made up for it in other areas, and it's okay that we went over it by like $1,000 because we were building this. It's going to help us so much in the future, and we justified every time, every tree order, everything.
Yeah. I mean, we'd be like, oh well, this is for the future.
This was on sale.
This was right.
Excuse me.
This was for the future. This was, this is what
This
we're
is a
trying to build.
one-time purchase. This is a one-time purchase. All these
How many
trees.
times have you said that on the homestead?
One time. We only have to buy this tree one time. It doesn't matter if it's going to die and then we have to replace it. It's a one-time purchase.
Yeah. So, I mean, we always justified it. We always had an excuse to go over budget for the homestead. When what we should have been doing, we should have been putting it out over months. Not doing it all at once, for example. Or
We actually look at the calendar and say, okay,
right.
this month, this place is going to have seeds on sale. This is where we buy the majority of our seeds. We have to have money in the budget for this. We cannot go
November.
over. Yes. So that's what we do. We look at the calendar. Okay, when do we need to buy trees if we're going to buy trees? If we're buying trees, it's more on the apple side right now is where we're having the biggest problem.
Yes.
We've bought from few different places, but none of them are really taking off very well for us. We're kind of, that's one of the areas things we're
Yeah,
struggling with.
and I mean we've got 40-year-old apple trees on the property too that have done amazing.
They're still
going, but we got to prepare for these others.
We can't guarantee they're going to be here in 10 years.
Right. I've been looking. I know they're a little bit more expensive, but has anybody, had experience with like trees of antiquity? I've been reading a few things. People said their apple trees are, usually pretty good. Let us know if you've bought any from them.
Aaron's been doing his research, but instead of buying 30 trees from there, we might buy 4.
Well, if they're like $50 a piece,
so 4.
So 4 is it. That hits the budget.
That's it. That's our budget, and it has to be in a month where we know we don't have another expense coming
Right.
out. So that's how we've been doing this. It's how we shifted and changed. But this podcast made us realize we were not applying frugality
To the homestead.
We were not. And we looked at it, as I looked at it, I said, I don't think we're being frugal homesteaders. He's like, what? I said, I really don't think we are. We're overspending
Every time.
to justify. And it's like, oh, well, we know we have this coming up. And we knew they were there. And it wasn't that we couldn't afford it. We could. But it was an expense we didn't need to make. When we really started focusing in on this, it changed everything for us.
Yeah.
This is one of the reasons we were able to get debt free. We didn't have $1,000 in a project fund coming out because we were working on a project that took more money than we ever thought or expected, and we were able to actually put money where it needed to go.
Yeah.
I mean, we really, really focused, and it made all the difference in the world. Delayed gratification is part of this. I understand we're in a society, we want it now. And homesteading, part of that is delayed. It is. So we should already be used to that, but we're not. We still live in this society where we want it now. We want it right. I want my sourdough starter to be ready to use. Aaron does right now.
I do.
We're days away from that. This is a slow go. This is a slow build. And that is what a homestead is. You're always going to be building on. You're always going to be adding to your infrastructure. You're always going to be making changes, making it better, making it work for you. We look at our homestead through the eyes that we're 50, 60 years old.
We
do now.
We do. And what we did from a tree perspective of we want the set up for the 50 to 60 year range, but that was it.
That was it.
We didn't, not the location or up and down
like
the
our
hill
front yard, I'm looking more at dwarf probably, instead of having lots of really big trees in the front yard, more of the dwarf fruit trees, because yes, they'll get big, but it will be much easier to manage than the height of these 40-year-old trees that Aaron is going to be. I mean, we're going to have to get like, what are they called? One of the ladders that has the platform ladders that he can stand on to get him higher, because the ladder he uses doesn't really work to get up into the tree on this uneven ground. He needs something a bit steadier. But it's okay to embrace a slow build. It really is.
It is. And take your homestead over time, get it to where you want to be,
You will be happier, it will be better, and you're not going to be struggling to get it all done at once.
Well, let's say, okay, you look at the homestead and you're like, okay, I want to do all this stuff. Okay, what's the one that's going to bring you income first? Everything else can wait, because the income one is the most important if you need that from a sooner perspective.
We didn't quite look at it that way.
No,
we looked at
we should have.
We looked at it as, let's get the fruit trees in because they're going to be the longest one. That's where our main focus was, to build this orchard. Especially since it's going to take years for it to grow. I mean, years and years. We've got probably 10, 15 years before we're actually producing enough to sell. We know that.
Right.
It's a long haul. But we're going to have so much fruit once it all starts producing. We'll have to sell or do something.
Or What I'm worried is we're going to have to hire somebody to
help pick it. Because there's just not going to be any way that Aaron could pick it all in one evening. Like, there's just no way. We have so many trees. And
I can't wait to be to that point, though.
But we can't. No, we can't. Like, right now, if our apricots produce what they're looking like, we're expecting not.
They're blooming so much right now. I'm worried we're going to have a freeze.
And the bees are pollinating.
Yeah.
So we're not sure if the bees being out right now is a good sign or a bad sign. But we're expecting a big freeze and we won't have any apricots again. But if we do, it looks like we're going to have hundreds, which would be wonderful and lovely. Because I can just see I'll be canning apricots with apples.
Gosh, that'd be nice.
Right? Create a project list. We like Google Sheets for this. We really do.
We've done it a couple of ways.
We have.
We've done it on our Remarkable. If you've seen that's what we always have in front of us in a lot of the podcasts and a lot of the videos, for example, is our Remarkable. We used to do the subscription thing with it too, where it would sync to your phones and everything, but
it was free.
Yeah, we sort of let that go since they've made it costly and everything now. But we use this to quick jot down things.
Yep.
But now if we're wanting to look at it in multiple places, we will do it on Google Sheets because we've got it on our phones, we've got it on our computers, we've got it on our laptops, everything like that from that perspective to being able to.
And both of us have access to it at any given time,
right.
Which is nice. Now, the Remarkable is great for brain dumping, but I like having it written down, and I could color code it, and we can delete it whenever it's done and mark it off. And we can also add to it as needed. So right now we're about to start marking a lot of things off the list because I've been working really hard.
She's been going through some on the list.
I've been getting a lot done. Like kiwis come off the list. That is done.
That's done.
That's completely done. The gojis will come off the list tomorrow because they'll be tied up. I wanted Aaron's opinion on where to tie them up, but I got most of the project done and then waiting for his opinion. Berry vines, I'm going to hopefully have those done as well. So I've really been knocking through a lot of these projects that I can do by myself.
Yeah.
Without Aaron. And then trying to see what do we need to do next so we can get started. Where I need him and he can get the things that I need him to do for me. And then I can go ahead and get the other things taken care of that I don't really need his help on.
But yeah, we use that from a project perspective, from tracking it from that perspective to tracking it to large perspective. Okay, let's say the chicken coop. Okay, chicken coop, what all do we need for the chicken coop?
What costs are associated?
Writing that down and sort of figuring it out ahead of time.
Yep, building the plans, figuring out what that looks like the lily pad when we start that this year. What all are we going to need? How much of it are we going to need? How much of it do we already have on hand? What's the size? So we have the broad project on there. These are things we want to accomplish. We want to try to get this done this year. Kind of need to have like another one just of ongoing projects for like the front yard and our greenhouse and possibly the high tunnel and all these other things that we want to add to the homestead. But for us, the things we have to do right now, that's kind of where it goes, and it helps us keep us straight.
And with the Remarkable too, you do draw out the design on it as well, so we sort of have it all planned out ahead of time so that we're not backtracking and being like, oh, well, if we had designed it, if we design it just on the fly, we might end up spending more money.
Well, and what I also try to do is I try to calculate how much we need, and I always overorder. It kills Aaron.
It does.
But I would rather overorder than underorder, especially if we have to have like a delivery. Yeah. Because a lot of times things that we need, like a lot of really long pieces of wood or really long pieces of like fence posts, we had to have those delivered. We can't carry them. we get our vehicle. It's really hard to carry fence posts that are that tall for us, because
We have carried a few before.
we have, but it's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard, and it's not a smart idea whenever it goes across. If you were to slam your brakes and it goes through the windshield, we don't have a truck, and it's a long drive to get there and a long drive to get back. So for us, sometimes it's worth the delivery costs. It's something we have to weigh. It's one of the, struggles of living rural without a truck, but it's one of the things we do to save money because a truck would cost us a lot more.
And we don't want to. I mean, our vehicles work right now. We have no need to replace.
Yes. With this project list, I would also say focus on one infrastructure project at a time.
Yes.
If it's going to cost a lot of money. If you don't have all the material on hand.
Don't even get multiple ones going at a time, because you're not going to finish one of them. You're going to.
Well, you will. It's just going to take you so much longer.
Right.
And you're going to get frustrated. And we have had to learn this the hard way. But I feel like we're doing a lot better at this. We're getting one done now. Get one done now.
Yep.
And then move to the next one. And then to the next one. And then to the next one. And getting them knocked off the list. Because Aaron's like, well, you need to move here. I'm like, no. I need to get this done now. I need to get these done, because if I don't get these berry vines done, when they start to go green, it's going to be even harder for me to yank them out of the ground and pull them out, versus me going over here. The gojis are not green. The berry vines are green.
Yeah.
So we've already had this conversation once this year. And it worked out well, because I actually was able to do berry vines and gojis in an evening. I didn't have enough time to start putting up fencing, but I had enough time to get this one little berry vine area contained. That's our problem. We have so many berry vine areas. It's a lot to contain.
It is.
It was a lot to contain, but berries grow good for us.
We have amazing success with
We
berries.
have a really good success. When we have a good year, they don't get bit. We have some amazing berry vines.
Yeah.
So focus on one area, get that done. So that way you're taking care of all your costs at once as well. So this is really important, because you want to make sure you don't have multiple projects going that are going to cost you money at the same time. Focus on one, get it done, move to the next one where you can start recouping your costs and start saving. Have a good inventory of what you already have. Have all your fencing together. Try to have all your wood together, or at least know where all your wood stacks are.
Right. So you can analyze how much you've got as well. So you might think, oh, I've got 10 fence posts out there underneath the back of the garage somewhere. Well, actually, I've forgotten to use those 10 somewhere else. Make sure that you have everything together, and that you're counting everything to see that you've got everything before you actually start.
We've always been pretty good about this, but we would always run into issues with tomato cages. This was a big one for us. And this was probably another really big cost for us when it came to trees.
It was.
It was a bigger cost in some cases than the tree. And
it was.
And when we first started, it wasn't that big of a deal.
We were able to get them for like 30 cents a piece with, I don't know, $20 delivery. And then it got...
like within a year.
Within like a year, up to 70, 80 cents a piece.
Or more.
$50, $60 delivery.
Then it wasn't the last time we ordered like $2 or $3 a piece. It was in the dollars, wasn't it?
Last time, it wasn't even economical to order anywhere online. It was actually cheaper at Rural King, and they were $1.39 a piece.
Yep. It killed Aaron.
Yep.
And he would search for hours.
Oh, I would.
Hours and hours. He was looking everywhere to find these, because this was our easy way to protect trees. It was worked out really well for us in a heavily deer populated area, but we've gotten to the point where it's not something we need as many now.
We don't need as many. Some we can take off of some, but we probably do need a few still, just because we use them for tomatoes and stuff as well.
So it's just one of those things that we kind of balance out.
Yeah.
But we look at it through the lens of, okay, what do we need to get? How many do we need to have? Like Aaron would know number of trees and number of tomato cages. That's how good he was at that point. He was like,
But
we have 200 tomato cages. We have 250 trees coming. I need 50 more. Like, you think this is an exaggeration?
no, it's not.
It's really not an exaggeration.
And then next year would come around. We ordered 200 more trees. I need 200 more tomato cages.
Give 500 tomato cages.
That's why we probably, well, I mean, if looking back on it from a frugality standpoint, that first year, yes, we should have, because we would have been so much cheaper, and we never foresaw those going up like that.
No, they went up crazy. It's super expensive. It just got, it wasn't worth it because you have to do that cost analysis for everything. And also try to be creative and think outside the box. Can you make your own tomato cages with old wire that you have? Some of our best tomato cages are some that Aaron's dad
or some rebarb ones, yeah.
Now, no, he can't use the rebarb fencing I have because I'm using that for my duck coop.
I know we've got other uses for our already leftover rebarb.
Yeah. So, we like to keep that, use it to have it on hand if you need it, but kind of know where everything is. You really want to try to make sure as much as your stuff is together. Now, we're a little bit spread out, but we know where everything is. Mm-hmm. But the goal is this year, we're much more cohesive, much more together, moving and adjusting and getting everything where it needs to go. So we are super organized for the future.
Yeah.
Homestead sinking fund. This has probably been one of the best things we've done.
This has been a very key to our budget here lately.
We've not dug into it though. Not as much as you would think.
No, not as much. Just because we're using that $200 to do what we need to each month. But what we did there was, I was trying to think. We set aside. We looked at it. We budgeted for like 5-6 months. Is that what we did?
Well, that was before we decided to pay off the house loan.
Right. But
it was right before we pivoted in July.
But we budgeted to put extra into the sinking fund for like 5 or 6 months to, have that on hand for a lot of upcoming projects that we were foreseeing, and it was something we put into the budget at that time point.
So we really built that up. So we have that cash set aside. It's not just for future projects. It's also for future buys. So we have one really big buy coming up. It is an electric battery operated wood splitter. We feel like this is something that for our homestead makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of people use a gas powered one, but for us, the
ability to charge it off solar if the batteries is why we're looking at like that. It's Ryobi. They're the one who makes it.
Our goal is for Aaron not to have to do this like in like a whole weekend to chop a whole bunch of wood. We're hoping to do it throughout like the summer.
Right.
And then we can see how much we have, continuously evaluate, and then whenever he has a free afternoon, he can go get wood and chop it and cut it down. That's the goal. That's the dream that we're getting to here. But we've got that cash set aside for that.
Yeah.
We have it because we set up the sinking fund.
Yeah, it's something we honestly, it's a wonder if we haven't already got it, but honestly, I don't think we've been over in that area or not been out on another trip where we would have room to get it in the vehicles. More the thing.
And we've kind of held off on it now because you've got cash back on a card that you were wanting to maximize for that purchase.
Right.
So it's not something we need at this moment. We've kind of identified some fallen trees that are easy access for Aaron to get to. So that will be our first point for whenever he's ready to do that. But the goal here is to set up a fund that really helps not put constraints on your budget. Because especially if you're homesteading and you're doing paycheck to paycheck, you don't have extra margin in your budget because you're paying down debt. You're paying down a mortgage. You're trying to get debt free or whatever your situation is, or you're living on very limited income. You need to have room in that budget. You need to build up margin however you can. So even if you take up an extra side hustle, do an extra side job, whatever you need to do for upcoming projects, is you do not want to go into the hole for these things.
Yeah.
That defeats the whole purpose of being a free homesteader. It really does. We're wanting to reduce our dependencies, but we're dependent on our credit to get what we need.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta get debt free. I mean, that's our biggest thing always. And whether it's, hey, you're cutting back a little on your homestead purchases and homestead to get debt free, it's probably worth it. But
especially if you're spending, like I'm seeing people spending $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on mortgages, and it's like, oh, I mean, that's not extra. That's just the payment.
Yeah.
Right now, that is insane. That is insane. It's so much money you could be putting back into your homestead that's going out to pay. And I understand it's the situation a lot of people are in, and we totally get that.
Yeah.
But the focus is to build that margin so you have that extra to put back into your homestead. So maybe instead of saying, well, I need to put this back into my homestead now, focus on getting debt free so that way you can put it into your homestead later.
Right.
And you have a safer future.
Yeah, like evaluate what you're putting your money into your homestead. Are you putting it into something that's not giving you a return on investment? Are you putting it into something that is not bringing any money into the homestead, that's not doing anything specific? Look at it from a perspective of, okay, here my $100 a month that goes into the homestead is going to animal feed for my chickens, which I'm selling eggs off of, for example. Yes, or you're eating off of, great return on investment probably.
So think of it this way. For us, it's cheaper for us to buy grass-fed beef than it is for us to have a cow on our property. We don't eat enough beef.
We don't.
Or even to buy a cow. We don't eat enough beef for us to buy a whole cow.
Not a whole one, no. I mean,
maybe like a quarter.
We would probably like a quarter of one, but even a half, we don't have enough freezer space either for a half. Or not usually, should I say.
So it's just one of those things we have to do a cost analysis on. Does it really make sense? Is it? I mean, I understand that's your dream. It's what you want. You want to have it. You want to have access to it. You want to have it there. But do the cost analysis. It might be cheaper for you just to buy it, can it, and have it on your shelves.
Yeah.
I mean, it really might. And we hate to be the ones to say that. We want everybody to live the dream they want to live. But being debt-free, it has completely shifted how we look at things and money. It really has. And when we were so close to it, we were already seeing this shift, because I was like, Aaron, I don't ever want to go into debt again. He's like, well, maybe for a vehicle. But now he's like,
no.
It's just not worth it. It's not worth it. You have so much extra you could put towards your day-to-day, your life, and you could put back into your homestead. I mean, we are seeing that with both of our incomes, how much was going out the door and how much of Aaron's income alone we are putting away.
Yeah.
Is almost the same amount.
It is.
Percentage-wise.
Percentage-wise, yeah.
Which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane to think about. So that wasn't actually a tip on there, but it is one of the things we will, I don't want to say preach, but it's one of the things that we feel so strongly about, because we are here. We are here, and we've been debt-free for 2 months. 2 months, and I can tell you I sleep better. The stress of having that payment is gone, and I feel like we're overall in a better place mentally, because we don't have to deal with that. We don't feel like we owe anybody anything.
Right.
Just each other.
Yep. Any final thoughts?
I would really focus on that budget and making sure you don't justify expenses, because you can do that so easily. You can justify any expense if you really think about it. But for us, it's like, no. Even last month with my grocery budget, we were doing that challenge. I was like, I am not going over this budget. I could have. And I could have justified it because beans were on sale for 88 cents a pound. But I said, nope, I do not have room in my budget for this. I cannot justify this. So that's probably the biggest thing you can take away from here. Don't justify going over budget. Know your numbers, stick to your numbers, and then if you have big infrastructure you're working on, you got to do the slow build. You cannot do it fast if you don't have the cash. You?
Prioritizing your list to see, okay, hey, this project here is going to cost $100. This project's going to cost $500. Okay, well, I know I need to save up, so much each month to do the $500 one, or I can do the $101 this month and get it over with. Sort of prioritizing it from that perspective and seeing, which is basically your wants and your needs.
Right now, we're prioritizing which ones don't cost us any money.
Yeah.
We really are.
We are.
We're looking like, what do we need to do right now that's going to cost us no money?
Yep.
And I mean, we do have the things that do cost money, like the seed start has a little bit of cost to it and things like that. But for the most part, I mean, we're really trying. We knew we had a lot of things on the list that we had to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Because it had gotten behind, we did keep up with it, and that's what we're working on first. Yep. And I would say that's helped out more than anything.
Agree. Well, if you've got any comments, questions, you can leave them down below on YouTube or send them to thecannycouple@yahoo.com. Make sure to go over and check out our link tree with all of our other content. And
as always, thank you for joining us on Rural Reliance with Canny Couple, where we work hard, live simple, and enjoy life. Have a wonderful day.